The sound hit first. Not the alarm, not the security rushing through the door. The sound of a man's breath. Sharp, desperate, like someone drowning in open air. He sat there, back against the wall, blood on his knuckles from punching through his own window. His phone screen glowing with a headline that just ended everything. Tech powerhouse announces new CEO, industry stunned. And below it, her name. Not his wife's, not his business partner's, not anyone the world expected. Her, the woman he erased. He laughed once, a sound that didn't belong to a billionaire. More like a man who just realized he bet his entire fortune on the wrong hand. "No," he whispered to the empty room, "this can't be how it ends." But it already had. If you're watching this right now, I need you to understand something. This isn't a story about money. It's not about startups or business empires or billion-dollar deals. This is about the price you pay when you forget who built the ground you're standing on. And if stories like this matter to you, stories that show you the hidden cost of success, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will stay with you long after this video ends. His name was Marcus Hale. 10 years ago, he was nobody, drowning in debt, living in a neighborhood where the power went out twice a week, pitching ideas to investors who wouldn't remember his face 5 minutes after he left the room. But he had something most people don't. He had her. 10 years earlier, the lights went out, again. Maya didn't even look up this time. Her laptop battery blinked red, 4% remaining, as she typed furiously, racing against time and failing infrastructure. Outside, someone shouted in frustration. Dogs barked. The generator downstairs coughed and died. Marcus paced behind her, running his hair through his hair for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "I'm telling you, Maya, they won't even look at it." She stopped typing, turned in her chair, looked at him with those steady eyes that somehow made chaos feel manageable. "You said that last time," she replied calmly, "and they called you back within 3 days. That was luck." "No," she stood, walked to the printer that shouldn't have been working but somehow was. "That was preparation." She handed him the proposal, 47 pages, every number verified, every projection stress-tested, every risk acknowledged and addressed. He stared at it like it was a lottery ticket. "Maya, what if I'm not—" "Stop." Her voice was gentle but firm. "You're going to walk in there tomorrow, and you're going to show them something nobody else in that room has thought of. And when they ask you questions, you're going to have answers, because we prepared." She touched his face. Her hands were cold from typing in the dark. "I wouldn't stay up 3 nights in a row if I didn't believe in this." He kissed her forehead, promised her dinner at the place she'd been wanting to try. He forgot that promise, but she didn't remind him. She never did. The rejection letters stopped coming after that meeting. Then the calls started, then the meetings, then the money. Small at first, enough to fix the generator, move to a better apartment, buy a car that didn't break down every other week. Then intoxicating. And every step of the way, she was there. Not in the spotlight, not on stage, not in the photos, but behind him, fixing things, saving him. Marcus stood at the head of the conference table, sweat forming at his collar despite the air conditioning. 5 investors stared at him with expressions that could mean anything. "Your market penetration strategy," one of them said slowly. "Walk us through Q3. Marcus opened his mouth, paused. He knew this. They'd rehearsed this, but under pressure, his mind went blank. Maya, sitting 3 seats down, slid a folded note across the table. He glanced down. "Urban centers first, rural in Q4. Don't rush the timeline." He looked up, confidence returning. "We're prioritizing urban centers in Q3, he said smoothly. "Rural expansion comes in Q4. We're not rushing the timeline because infrastructure sustainability is more valuable than rapid scaling." The lead investor nodded slowly. "Smart." After the meeting, in the parking garage, Marcus grabbed Maya's hand. "You saved me in there." She smiled.
We're a team. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, she said. She believed that. That was her first mistake. The invitations changed first. Mr. Hale and guest became Mr. Hale and partner, became just Mr. Hale. She noticed, said nothing. Then his introductions changed. This is Maya, my girlfriend, became Maya helps me sometimes, and then it became silence. She still showed up, still fixed problems at 3 a.m., still believed, but something had shifted, like a foundation slowly cracking under pressure nobody else could see. Maya sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by documents, her eyes red from exhaustion. Marcus was in the bedroom on a call. His voice drifted out, casual and careless. She's great, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't really fit the image anymore, you know? Maya froze, didn't breathe, didn't move, just listened as the man she built broke her with sentences he didn't think she'd hear. If this is hitting close to home right now, I want you to leave a comment, because someone else watching this might need to know they're not alone. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with shouting. Sometimes it comes softly when the person you built forgets to lower their voice. The first official document came without her name. She held it in her hands, reading it 3 times to make sure. "Why am I not listed?" she asked carefully. Marcus didn't look up from his computer. "Legal formatting, don't worry about it." "Marcus, I built this framework." "And you'll get credit internally," he said, still not looking at her. "The external documents are different. It's just how it works." She nodded slowly. She always nodded. Her access badge stopped working. Security apologized. System error. It took 3 days to fix. She wasn't invited to the next major meeting. It was last minute, you understand. Her name disappeared from the pitch decks. Simplified version, she was told, for investors. One by one, the pieces of her presence were removed, not violently, professionally, politely, like she was being edited out of a story she wrote. She sat in her small home office, not his anymore, hers, staring at a contract that credited 3 consultants for work she'd done. Her phone rang. Her sister. "How's it going with Marcus?" Maya opened her mouth, closed it. "Good. Busy," she finally said. "You sound tired." "I am. Are you happy?" Silence. "I have to go," Maya said quietly. After hanging up, she stared at her reflection in the dark window. When had she stopped recognizing herself? She didn't know it yet, but the answer was already walking into the company. His name was Jonathan Wells, expensive suit, Stanford MBA, the kind of confidence that comes from never failing because you've never risked anything real. "Marcus, you need to streamline," Jonathan said during a private meeting Maya accidentally overheard. "The foundation was great, but foundations aren't sexy. Investors want vision, not caution." "Maya built those projections. They're solid." "They're safe," Jonathan corrected, "and safe doesn't make headlines." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "What do you suggest?" Maya's chest tightened. She walked away before hearing the answer.
The party was at a rooftop venue Maya had never heard of. She arrived alone because Marcus was running late from a meeting. The room was full of people she didn't recognize. Expensive clothes, strategic laughter, eyes that calculated value in seconds. A woman approached her, champagne in hand. "You must be so proud," she said warmly. "Sorry?" "Of Marcus, what he's built. It's incredible." Maya smiled politely. "Thank you. How do you know him?" "I'm his—" She paused. What was she? "We've worked together for years." "Oh, you're in tech too?" "I helped build the early framework." The woman's smile became practiced, polite, distant. "That's nice. Excuse me." She left to talk to someone more important. Maya stood alone in a room celebrating work she'd done, surrounded by people who didn't know she existed. Marcus finally arrived an hour later, pulling a woman with perfect posture and a calculated smile. "Everyone, I want you to meet someone special." Maya's heart stopped.
This is Victoria Chen. She's joining us as Chief Strategy Officer. Applause erupted. Victoria smiled like someone who knew exactly how valuable she was. Marcus caught Maya's eye across the room. For just a second, something flickered in his expression. Guilt? Recognition? Then he looked away. Maya left the party without saying goodbye. Nobody noticed. Days later, she came home to find Marcus sitting on the couch, looking uncomfortable. "We need to talk," he said. She set her bag down slowly. "Okay." "I think we're growing in different directions." She nodded. She'd known this was coming. "I think you've already grown without me," she said quietly. He didn't deny it. That told her everything. She packed methodically. Clothes, books, the laptop she'd used to build everything. Before she left, she did one final thing. She copied every framework she'd created, every projection, every structure, every piece of architecture that had his name on it, but her mind behind it. She wasn't stealing, she was reclaiming. She left at dawn without a word. He didn't notice she was gone until 3 days later, when an assistant couldn't find a critical document. By then, she had already disappeared. If you're still watching, I need to tell you something. This is the moment where most people think the story's over, where they assume she cried for months and he moved on without consequences. But here's what most people don't understand about foundations. When you remove the person holding everything together, the structure doesn't collapse immediately. It stands, it looks fine, it even grows. But deep in the base, where nobody's looking, cracks are forming. And those cracks don't announce themselves, they just spread. Hit that like button if you're ready to see what happens when a house built on erasure finally meets gravity. 18 months later, Marcus stood on stage at the Tech Innovation Summit, bathed in admiration. "The key to sustainable growth," he said confidently, "is knowing when to take calculated risks." Applause rippled through the audience of 2,000. Behind him, slides showed trajectories that looked unstoppable. Revenue up 340%, market share expanding, partnerships with household names. The world called him a visionary. Nobody mentioned the woman who taught him how to calculate those risks. Maya sat across from a nervous founder who couldn't have been older than 25. "I don't know if this is viable," the founder said, showing her projections that were more hope than data. Maya studied them carefully, made notes, asked questions the founder hadn't considered. 30 minutes later, she slid back a revised framework. "This is viable, but not the way you're approaching it." The founder stared at the pages. "How did you—" "Experience," Maya said simply, "and mistakes I made sure to learn from."
The founder implemented every suggestion. 6 months later, that startup closed a Series A funding round. Maya's name wasn't in the press release, but her work was in every successful slide. The venue was obscene. Glass architecture, white roses imported from Ecuador, a guest list that read like a Fortune 500 directory. Victoria looked perfect beside him, poised, strategic, a partner who enhanced his image rather than complicated it. "She's exactly what you need," his mother whispered during the reception. Marcus smiled, nodded, danced, but that night, alone in the bathroom of their luxury suite, he stared at his reflection and felt hollow. He'd expected to feel victorious. Instead, he felt like he was playing a role in someone else's life. Marcus's world expanded. Offices in 4 countries, press features, speaking engagements. Maya's world deepened. Careful client selection, strategic consulting, a reputation for turning struggling ventures into stable enterprises. Neither spoke to the other. Neither tried, but both felt the absence in ways they couldn't articulate. "The Q3 projections look aggressive," one board member said carefully. Marcus leaned back, confident. "We've modeled for multiple scenarios. We're covered." "Can you walk us through the risk mitigation?"
He opened his mouth, paused. This was the moment Maya would have slid him a note, a quiet reminder of the safeguards they'd built. There was no note. He improvised. "We've stress-tested against market volatility," he said smoothly. "Our position is secure." The board member nodded slowly, not convinced, just polite. After the meeting, Jonathan approached. "That could have gone better." Marcus shot him a look. "We got board approval." "This time," Jonathan said, "but you hesitated. They noticed." Marcus said nothing. For the first time in 2 years, he wondered where Maya was. The email came from a firm she respected. Position, Senior Strategic Director. Compensation, triple what Marcus had ever paid her. Visibility, actual credit for her work. She read it 3 times. Her finger hovered over accept. Then she saw a name in the CC line, Marcus Hale. He'd been contacted for a reference. Her jaw tightened. She accepted the position without responding to his reference request. Marcus read the industry newsletter during a flight, scrolling absently until a name stopped him cold. Strategic Director Maya Okafor joins Quantum Ventures. He read the brief twice, then checked her LinkedIn. Her profile had changed. New position, new city, new trajectory. Her summary was simple: building sustainable growth through strategic foresight. Those were his words, or rather, they were hers first. Something twisted in his chest. Marcus announced a major acquisition. Headlines praised his bold vision. Maya quietly prevented a client's catastrophic merger. No headlines, just results. Marcus appeared on magazine covers. Maya appeared in boardrooms where real decisions happened. His growth was loud. Hers was precise. "Sir, we have a problem." Marcus looked up from his phone. "What is it?" 3 senior engineers just resigned, all on the same day. Competitors poaching? No, they cited cultural concerns. Marcus frowned. Meaning? They said the company's lost its foundation. Those were their exact words. Marcus felt cold. Foundation. That was Maya's word. "You've been distracted lately," Victoria said, over dinner at a restaurant with a 6-month waiting list. "I'm fine." "You're not." She set down her fork. "And I'm smart enough to know when my husband is somewhere else." He looked at her, really looked. "Did you marry me because you loved me, or because I fit?" He didn't answer. She nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." She didn't leave, but something between them did.
The audit started quietly, routine compliance check. Then someone noticed discrepancies. Small ones, nothing alarming, just inconsistencies. Decisions that didn't match earlier standards, safeguards that had been removed, risk models that no longer made sense. Who approved these changes? The auditor asked. Marcus looked at documents he barely remembered signing. "I did," he said. "Based on whose analysis?" He had no answer, because the person who used to do that analysis was gone. Here's something they don't tell you about success. It's not the big mistakes that destroy you. It's the small systems that stop working when the person maintaining them disappears. And you won't notice, not at first, not until the day everything you built starts leaking from places you forgot to check. If this is making sense, drop a comment, because what happens next is where most powerful people make their biggest mistake. The city lights blinked below, like they knew a secret he didn't. Marcus sat in darkness, staring at a document he'd found buried in old files. A framework, dated 7 years ago, Maya's handwriting in the margins. "This is the foundation. Don't build faster than this can support." He'd ignored that warning 3 years ago. Now the building was swaying. His phone buzzed. Another board member requesting an emergency call. That made 4 this week. He didn't answer. Instead, he did something he'd avoided for 3 years. He searched for her number. His finger trembled. Then he pressed it. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Hello?" Her voice, steady, professional, unreachable. His breath caught. "Maya, who is this?"
She knew. He could hear it in her tone. She was making him say it. "It's Marcus." Silence stretched like broken glass. "What do you need?" she finally asked. Not, "How are you?" Not, "It's been a while." Just, "What do you need?" He swallowed. "I think I made a mistake." "You've made several. Which one are we discussing?" The words hit like a slap. "The company's in trouble," he admitted. "Real trouble. And I don't know how to—" "Stop," she interrupted. "You called me at 2 a.m. because your empire is cracking, and you want me to fix it. I need your help." "No." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. "I need your expertise. There's a difference." "Maya, please." "I spent 7 years building foundations for you. Foundations you dismantled the moment they weren't convenient. You don't get to call me when gravity finally arrives." "I know I hurt you." "You erased me," she corrected. "Hurt is when someone forgets your birthday. Erasure is when they forget you built the house they're standing in." He had no response. "I can't help you," she said quietly. "Not because I'm angry, because you need to learn what it costs to build something alone." The line went dead. He sat there for 20 minutes, phone in hand, understanding for the first time what irreversible meant. 3 weeks later, the headline appeared on a Tuesday morning. "Hale Industries under investigation. Internal audit reveals structural concerns." Marcus's phone exploded. Investors, board members, lawyers. Victoria stood in the doorway of his office, arms crossed. "I'm leaving," she said simply. He looked up, exhausted. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will contact yours."
"Victoria, this is temporary." "I didn't marry you for your money," she interrupted. "I married you for your trajectory, and your trajectory just reversed." She left without another word. He almost laughed. At least she was honest. The room felt smaller than usual, or maybe it was just that the walls were closing in. "The audit revealed systemic issues," the chairman said carefully. "Risk models that were never properly implemented, safeguards that were removed without documentation, decisions that violated our own protocols." Marcus tried to steady his voice. "We can correct—" "Can you?" Another board member leaned forward. "Because it appears the person who designed those systems left 3 years ago, and nobody thought to maintain them. I maintained them." "Did you?" The chairman slid papers across the table. "Because these signatures are yours, but the analysis behind them is absent." Marcus stared at documents he'd signed without reading, trusting they were correct because they'd always been correct when Maya prepared them. "We're voting," the chairman continued, "on whether you remain as CEO." The room went cold. "The Hale situation presents an opportunity," someone said. "Excuse me?" Maya looked up from her notes. "Their infrastructure is failing. Their leadership is unstable. It's the perfect time for acquisition." She set down her pen carefully. "You want me to help you buy Marcus Hale's company? Your expertise would be invaluable. You know the architecture better than anyone." She was quiet for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "No? I won't profit from someone's collapse," she explained. "Not even his. That's not who I am. With all due respect, he didn't extend you the same courtesy. I know. That's exactly why I won't do it. Because I'm not him." Stop right here for a second. This is the moment where most revenge stories give you what you think you want. The villain destroyed, the hero victorious. But real life is more complicated than that, because the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming someone who no longer needs it. If that's hitting different right now, leave a comment. Someone needs to hear this. Marcus sat at the far end of the table, watching faces that used to smile at him now avoid his eyes. The votes came in one by one. Against, against, against. He was removed as CEO by unanimous decision. The press release went out within the hour. This is where we started. Marcus sitting on the floor, blood on his knuckles, shattered glass.
But now you know what he's reading, not news about himself, news about her. Maya Okafor named CEO of Quantum Ventures, youngest woman to lead major tech firm. The article detailed her rise, her strategic vision, her innovative approach to sustainable growth. Those were his phrases, or rather hers first. He scrolled through her quotes, recognizing the framework she'd tried to teach him years ago. Success isn't about moving fast, it's about building something that lasts after the excitement fades. He'd called that thinking too cautious once. Now he saw it for what it was, wisdom. "How much do I have left?" Marcus asked. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "After settlements, legal fees, and the restructuring, approximately 40 million. Marcus almost laughed. "I was worth 2 billion last year." "Yes," the lawyer said carefully, "you were." She walked into the building at 7 a.m. before the press arrived. The office was quiet, peaceful. She stood at the window of her new corner office, looking out at the same city Marcus was watching from the opposite side of failure. Her assistant knocked softly. "Ma'am, your first meeting is in 30 minutes. "Thank you." Maya turned. "And Sarah?" "Yes?"
Let's make sure everyone on the team has clear attribution for their work. I want names on documents, credit in meetings, recognition in presentations. Sarah smiled. Of course. Maya nodded. I learned the hard way what happens when you don't. 6 months later, Marcus had moved into a smaller apartment. Not poor, just smaller. He'd started consulting for startups, advising, teaching what he'd learned through loss. One afternoon, a young founder asked him, "What's the most important lesson you've learned?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Don't confuse loyalty with convenience," he finally said, "and never underestimate the value of someone who tells you the truth when everyone else tells you what you want to hear." The founder nodded, writing it down. Marcus stared at his own words, realizing he'd just quoted something Maya told him a decade ago. It happened in the most ordinary way. An elevator, a shared building, a conference neither expected the other to attend. The doors opened. They both froze. 3 years of silence compressed into 3 seconds of recognition. She looked powerful, grounded, at peace. He looked smaller, weathered, real. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "I read about the promotion." "Thank you," she replied. Silence filled the space between floors. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly. "I know it doesn't matter now. I know it's too late. But I need you to know." "I know," she interrupted gently. "You do?" "I've known for a while." She looked at him fully. "Apologies are heavier when you wait too long to deliver them." The elevator dinged, her floor. She stepped out, then turned back. "Marcus?" "Yes?" "I forgive you." She said it simply. "Not because you deserve it, because I deserve peace." The doors closed. He stood there long after the elevator moved, understanding for the first time that forgiveness isn't about reconciliation, it's about release. 6 months later, Maya stood backstage, preparing for her keynote. She'd been asked to speak about building sustainable success. Ironic, given where she'd learned those lessons. "5 minutes, Miss Okafor," the stage manager called. She nodded, checked her notes one final time. Then she saw him in the audience, Marcus, in the back row, notepad in hand. Their eyes met. He nodded once, not asking permission, not seeking attention, just acknowledging. She walked onto the stage to applause. The lights were bright. The room was full. 3,000 people waiting for wisdom. She took a breath. "I want to talk about invisible labor," she began. The room went quiet. "Every success story you've ever heard has an invisible chapter. The person who worked without credit, the partner who sacrificed without recognition, the foundation that never made it into the headlines." She clicked to the next slide. "We celebrate speed. We reward boldness. We worship disruption, but we rarely acknowledge the people who make those things possible."
In the back row, Marcus wrote faster. I spent 7 years building something I loved. Then I watched someone else take credit for it. And for a long time I was angry. Then I was sad. Then I was nothing. She paused. But eventually I realized something. The person who erased me didn't diminish what I built. They just proved they never understood it. Applause rippled through the room. Real strength isn't building something people applaud. It's building something that lasts after the applause fades. And that requires something our culture doesn't celebrate enough. She clicked again. One word appeared: sustainability.
Not just in business, in relationships, in how we treat the people who believe in us before we believe in ourselves. Her eyes found Marcus in the crowd. Some of you will build empires. Some of you will change industries. But if you forget the people who helped you get there, she let the silence finish the sentence. You'll build something that looks strong, but crumbles the moment pressure arrives. The applause was thunderous. Marcus stood with everyone else, but he was the only one crying. Marcus waited outside the speaker's lounge. When Maya emerged, flanked by admirers and reporters, she saw him immediately. She excused herself, walked over. "Thank you for that," he said quietly. "I didn't do it for you." "I know," he smiled sadly. "That's what made it powerful." They stood there, two people who'd built something together, and watched it collapse. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "One question. When did you know that you had to leave?" Maya thought about it. "The night you laughed when someone said I helped sometimes," she replied. "I realized you genuinely believed that my contribution was optional, that I was replaceable." He nodded slowly. "I was wrong." "Yes," she agreed, "you were." "If I could go back—" "You can't," she interrupted gently. "Neither can I. We only move forward from here." "Are you happy?" he asked. She smiled. "I'm proud. That's better." The documentary aired 3 months later, The Rise of Maya Okafor, From Shadow to Spotlight. It detailed her early career, her consulting work, her strategic brilliance, and in one carefully researched segment, it revealed something Marcus had hoped would stay buried. But Okafor's story begins earlier than most know. Before Quantum Ventures, she spent 7 years as the uncredited architect behind one of tech's fastest-growing companies. Old documents appeared on screen, frameworks with her handwriting, emails with her insights, proposals with her analysis. Sources close to the company confirmed that many of the strategies credited to then-CEO Marcus Hale were actually developed by Okafor, who received neither recognition nor equity. The camera showed Marcus in a brief archived clip accepting an award, not a single mention of her. When asked about this period, Okafor's response was revealing. Cut to Maya in an interview. "I don't regret building something I believed in. I regret not demanding to be seen while doing it." He sat in his apartment, watching his old self accept praise for work that wasn't entirely his. The shame was physical. He turned off the TV, sat in darkness, and finally allowed himself to feel the full weight of what he'd done. 1 year later, Marcus stood before a room of MBA students. "The most important decision you'll make," he told them, "isn't about strategy or capital or timing." He wrote on the board, "Who you protect." In your career, you'll meet people who believe in you before you're worth believing in, people who fix your mistakes without demanding credit, people who build your foundation while you chase the spotlight. The students took notes. Those people are not replaceable, and if you treat them like they are. He paused, remembering. You'll succeed for a while, maybe even years, but eventually you'll realize the strongest thing you ever built was the relationship you destroyed. After class, a student approached.
"Sir, That sounded personal. Marcus smiled sadly. The best lessons usually are. They ended up at the same event 2 years after the elevator meeting. This time, both were invited, both were celebrated, both were exactly where they belonged. Maya was receiving an award for sustainable business practices. Marcus was presenting it. He stepped to the podium. Maya Okafor represents something rare in our industry, he began. Not just brilliance, but integrity. Not just strategy, but sustainability. He looked at her. She builds things that last, and she does it without sacrificing the people who trust her. He paused. I know this because years ago I had the privilege of watching her work, and the misfortune of not recognizing what that meant until it was too late. The room was silent. This award recognizes excellence, but more importantly, it recognizes someone who never had to tear others down to rise up. He handed her the award. Their hands touched briefly. Thank you, she said softly. No, he replied. Thank you. She stood at the podium, holding an award that felt heavier than glass. I've prepared remarks, she began, but I'm going to set them aside. She looked at Marcus in the audience. Someone once told me I worried too much, that I was too cautious, that sustainable growth was too slow for the world we live in. She smiled. They were right, but they weren't malicious. They were just rushing. The audience listened intently. We live in a culture that celebrates speed over depth, results over relationships, victory over values. But I'm here to tell you that the things that last are never built quickly. She held up the award. This isn't just for me. It's for every person who's ever worked without credit, every partner who's ever been erased, every foundation that's never been photographed. Her voice strengthened. Your work matters. Your presence matters. And if the people you're building for can't see that, she looked directly at Marcus, build for yourself instead. The applause was deafening. Years later, Marcus Hale sat at a modest desk in a modest office, working with a startup that would never make him a billionaire. His assistant knocked. Sir, package for you. He opened it curiously. Inside was a book, Building to Last, Lessons in Sustainable Strategy, by Maya Okafor. He opened to the acknowledgments page. His name was there. To all the people who taught me what to build and what to protect, your lessons shaped everything that followed. He closed the book, smiled, and finally understood what she'd known all along. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about acknowledging what was, accepting what is, and building something better with what remains. So, where are they now? Marcus Hale rebuilt. Not an empire, something smaller, more honest. He advises founders about the mistakes he made, the people he undervalued, the foundations he neglected. He'll never be worth billions again, but he's worth something more valuable: peace. Maya Okafor became one of the most respected leaders in tech, not because she destroyed the person who hurt her, because she built something they couldn't: integrity. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Success without acknowledgement is just theft with applause. Power without protection is just control waiting to collapse. And building without honoring your foundation is just borrowing time until gravity arrives. If you stayed until the end of this story, thank you. Stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors. And if you saw yourself somewhere in these 90 minutes, either as Marcus learning too late or Maya leaving too quietly, then maybe this story can change what happens next in your life. Subscribe if stories that reveal the hidden cost of success matter to you. Like if this made you think differently about who you protect. And comment if you've ever been the foundation someone forgot to credit. Because your story matters, your work matters, and you deserve to be seen. The strongest foundations are the ones you never see until they're gone.